Hi everybody, welcome to Call of Duty Vanguard, and in this video I want to answer the question, or try to answer the question at least, what's it like playing Call of Duty Vanguard on a gaming monitor? So this baby here, this is my Hewlett-Packard 27xq 27-inch Quad HD gaming monitor. See, I'm reading the details off of my laptop. So basically this monitor with the Xbox Series S maxes out at 1440p 60 frames a second, or it can do 1080p at 120 frames a second, or 60 frames a second if you want to do that. So what's it like playing? So the first thing I talk about is resolution. And it's difficult to bring this across, you know, in a video recorded on a mobile phone. But basically, gaming monitors, in comparison to televisions, are incredibly crisp. I mean, incredibly crisp. There's no real comparison. The amount of detail that you can see on a gaming monitor, whether that be a 1080p one or a 1440 one like this one, is an order of magnitude higher than what you would see on a television. And what that means is you can see a lot more details, especially if in the settings of something like Call of Duty Vanguard, you go in and you turn off film grain, you turn off motion blur, you turn off weapon motion blur, turn off depth of field, and you really start to see how amazing these games look in terms of the textures and stuff like that. But it also means that you can see enemies much better as well. So first thing I would say is, yeah, you can see so much more compared to television when you're playing on one of these, and that's true at 1080p or 1440p. Obviously, at the higher resolution, things get even crisper. But you know, the increase in clarity that the monitor gives you at 1080p is pretty amazing too. So next, what's it like playing at, say, 1440p at 60 frames a second? So that might be the big change, where you've been running on, say, a 1080p TV at 60 frames a second, and you come to 1440p at 60 frames a second. And again, it's kind of like an order of magnitude change at how much better the game feels in terms of responsiveness. Because when we talk about frames a second, that's the the refresh rate, like, if you like, of the screen as it's swapping between frames. But what happens with gaming monitors as well is that the speed at which they can turn on and off the pixels at what you're looking at is incredibly fast as well. So this monitor has, I think, a maximum of a 1 millisecond grey to grey response time. So it's kind of hard to describe, but it's almost like you see enemies moving before they start moving. Now that might say, what would you say? What are you talking about, Rob? But honestly, it is that different. You can respond so much faster. And I think that's a combination of the greater clarity, the greater resolution, and the fact that you're seeing things move, and it might only be a micro of a second faster than you would see on a television. But those things kind of add up and give you a very, very responsive gameplay experience. In fact, it makes it incredibly intense as well. And especially with this particular monitor, it doesn't support, well, the Xbox doesn't support 1440p 120 frames a second on this monitor. Hopefully there will be some sort of firmware update at some point, it will. So if I want to do 120 frames a second, I knock it down to 1080p, knock the Xbox down to 1080p, and it can do it at 120 frames a second. And when you start getting up to 120 frames a second at 1080p on the 27-inch monitor, and this would apply for a 24-inch monitor as well, as it almost sometimes gets too intense, because the scene is moving so fast. There's so little blur when you're spinning around. Obviously, your eyes are probably blurring a bit because it is moving so quickly. But you can kind of see things happening, and you start reacting instinctively. Now, I know you react instinctively anyway, you know, when you've played enough of a first-person or a third-person shooter. But with a gaming monitor, it is taking it to that next level. Now, it does take a bit of getting used to, and I'm still getting used to it myself. If anything, I'm finding it sometimes too responsive, and you're like, oh my god, it's almost like I need to reduce my sensitivity on my controller and things like that, because I'm just like, oh, it's all a bit much. I guess in a massive roundabout way, I'm kind of saying that changing to a gaming monitor for something like Call of Duty Vanguard is a massive improvement if you're into your competitive multiplayer shooters, you know. I don't mean competitive as in you're a competitive player, but you know you play multiplayer and you're playing team deathmatch, domination, or something like that against other players. You're not just playing like the campaign or just playing zombies, because it allows you to respond so much faster to what's going on in the game and makes the experience so much more in depth, and I think more immersive too. So for me, I'm really glad I got the HP27xq. This kind of what I'm saying here applies to really any modern gaming monitor. I just hope that Xbox can update the firmware so I can do 1440p, 120 frames a second. But for me, the sweet spot tends to be 1440p at 60 frames a second, because 1440p 60 frames a second on a gaming monitor is a much better experience than 1080p 60 frames a second on a television. It's a different experience. It's so crisp, so fast, so smooth. It takes the game to the next level. So Call of Duty Vanguard on a gaming monitor, definitely you should check it out. Look out for those offers on Amazon, or I got this one actually. So this monitor at the moment is £299.99 on HP's website. I got it because it went down to £200 at £100 off. So for 200 quid, I got a 27-inch, 144 hertz, 1440p gaming monitor. So it was a bit of a bargain, because I've had my eye on one for a long time, and I'm very pleased indeed. So there we go. That's my thoughts on playing Call of Duty Vanguard on a gaming monitor. What do you think? Put your questions and comments down below, and I will of course see you again soon.